Welcome back to the JT Show, SuperTalk, Mississippi. And on the guest line with us now, Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith joins us. Senator, thanks for taking the time to talk to us. How are you today?
Oh, we are great. Thanks for the opportunity. I always love to reach out to the JT Show and Gallo and all of SuperTalk to keep people informed if I can. So thanks for the opportunity, Dave.
Now, we've got a lot of stuff to talk about, and one of them I want to get to first because this has been a big topic. We've heard from mayors and other local officials that they need help in a lot of different ways. And you have introduced some legislation to kind of help out with that. The State and Municipal Assistance for Recovery and Transition Act, the SMART Act. Do you spend a lot of time making sure that the acronym says a word, by the way? I've always wondered that.
We do kind of put some thought into that of how we can basically simplify things, refer to it quickly without going through all of the words. And what it actually does, and it is a SMART Act, because, we continue to hear from our counties, towns, municipalities, our tribal communities, but Dr. Cassidy, Bill Cassidy over in Louisiana, the senator there, he and I have worked real closely on this. In fact, we were talking this past Thursday, we were exchanging text messages on it, but basically it's just a common sense bipartisan bill to give direct help to the states, counties, and the cities who need it, because in the last phase of the COVID relief, it just was not addressed to these areas to the full capacity that it needed to be. But this comes back and it kind of shores up a few things. And the thing that I like about it is also it provides flexibility, and it would be retroactive to monies that the state already has, that, we lift some of those restrictions. But this provides about $500 billion targeted to those communities with the flexibility. I mean, for the layoffs, the tax hikes, the interruption of essential services that we can't do without. We need firemen, we need policemen. So it is to be used by state and local governments for COVID-19 response, and, also allowing them with the FEMA to do some cost share, the local cost share for them as well, for public assistance grants and what they need it for to make up for lost revenue of people who couldn't be out shopping and buying and turning in those sales tax dollars.
Well, and we saw a little bit of a dip in the most recent sales tax diversions to municipalities. It was down about $3 million, and that was based on the March retail sales. The next report we get in about 3 weeks is going to be the big one. We're going to see a huge drop in that revenue, and you say that this act would allow some of that federal money to go to the municipalities to offset that loss?
Correct. I think it was April compared to April of last year. It was 30% down, and you're right. I think the telltale number is about to come up because we are slowly reopening. But we're waiting, bracing for the blow of what the actuality is going to be of that number. But the good thing is the flexibility. As I said, it applies retroactively to the Coronavirus Relief Fund, the CARES Act. And that will free up a lot of flexibility there that they really, really need. And I'm all about, state controlling the money that they get from the federal government, because you've got really good elected officials who can duly do this. And, you've got governors that are making really good decisions. And so give them the flexibility to plug the holes that they see need plugging at that time. But it's pretty much to 3 different buckets. Of course, it's, a federal legislation. It's based on the first one's population, because we had some really high thresholds that so many cities didn't qualify for in Mississippi because we have smaller rural areas. And then the second one is the COVID-19 infection rates of how many, confirmed cases did your state have. And then the third one being the revenue loss, the actual losses compared to the previous year. So I think we put together a really good plan, and, my staff has worked so hard on this, Dave. My hat's off to them. They really got out there and did the research and made sure that we came up with something sensible that we thought would get a lot of traction. But every state would receive a minimum of $2 billion from the first two buckets there, in addition to the allocation from the third, based on the revenue losses. But it would go directly to the cities, the counties, and set aside from everything else. But I think that it is just a very comprehensive plan that makes sense. That there's a lot of people really excited about this bill.
Well, and that's something I wanted to call back to because, let's be honest, in the climate that we've had for years now, this is an unusual statement, but we get to make it. You said that it did have bipartisan support, and I noticed that one of the co-sponsors on this is Gary Peters from Michigan, who is a Democrat from a Democratic state, but he signed off on this as well, right?
Yes, we had Senator Manchin, several that looked at this, and like I said, Senator Cassidy and I really put a lot of the content that's in here together. And then when we shared it, they said, this does make sense. This is reasonable. But, Mississippi is not the only state that's facing these economic difficulties. And, it's not due to bad budgeting. So, when people come in, and one of the things is we don't want to bail out any state pensions that were just bad decisions. That's not part of this. But, it should be part of the debate because, we all know that with the massive layoffs, we would have so much insult to injury if this happens. So, but it does not include anything that would reward the irresponsible tax and spend policies in big states like New York, Illinois, or wherever, but just go straight to where we need it to because, it just would not offer any money to bail out irresponsibility or the pension plans. So a lot of people, that was one of their number one main concerns when we rolled out with that. And it's, when they found that out and they started looking at it, but there's a lot of rural states out there, and it's really important for states like Mississippi that it does not mandate a population threshold because it would not be any good to us. But, it would just, the funding flows to rural counties and counties directly. So that's the most attractive thing about this is it doesn't bail out anyone in pension plans, but it does not have to meet a 500,000 population threshold like so much of it did, which was designed intentionally. So this is designed intentionally that it would benefit rural states as well.
See, I like that. You're using their own methods against them. I like it. Now, and you're exactly right. I mean, one thing that we found out, and we've been talking to some of the state leaders, and you think, oh, well, Mississippi did get $1.25 billion, and you think, oh, that's a lot of money. When you start looking at what needs to be done, it's not really.
Well, and, we've had disaster events during this time on top of this. I've got a call today, Jasper County needing FEMA help from the Easter tornadoes, so we had a lot going on top of that too that was costing these counties to address those issues. But when you eliminate that FEMA cost share requirement, so states and counties can apply it to their own front yards and their, what they're needing to overcome the pandemic and the additional flooding things that have happened, it's very sensible and I think addresses a lot of needs.
Now, the FEMA cost share, is that separate legislation?
No, that is included in the SMART bill. It would eliminate the FEMA cost share requirement so in the states, counties, cities, they can apply, to what they need. So that's in this bill that we have right here.
Okay.
The SMART Act.
And what that would do for people that don't know, if FEMA comes in with assistance after a disaster like the Easter tornadoes or the other federal disaster tornadoes that we've had, if FEMA comes in with assistance, they pay 75% of the cost, while the municipality or the county or the state has to pick up the other 25%. And this would eliminate that, right?
Exactly. We just don't have the funds to be doing that. That's the reason this is such a popular bill. And we had so many responses from across the state. And, thank you, Cindy. This is exactly what we need here. And they're excited about it because people were ready to start reopening. We're ready to try to find some solid ground, some solid footing here that we can, reopen safely and address these issues here. But we've had, as you can imagine, the calls never stop, and that's okay.
Senator?
I'm so honored to address these folks.
Senator, we're up against the break. Can you hang on? I have a couple of more things I'd like to add. Fantastic. Sure. Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith continues with us on the Dave Hughes here on the guest line. Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith. Well, let me ask you. Let's go back before we move on. Talking about the SMART Act, and I know you've got a lot of bipartisan support. What are you hearing about the chance of this actually passing, making it all the way through, and making it to the president's desk?
Well, when you have the traction and the momentum behind it, you've got a pretty good chance of that. But really, no one can predict it. But I'm thinking and even if it's wrapped into a bigger bill, that's fine, and that's probably what's going to happen. My name doesn't have to be on it to help folks. It's just as long as they get the help. So hopefully if it doesn't, go in as the SMART Act, it will be wrapped into a larger bill that is beneficial, that we agree upon. That's absolutely fine. But I do think that you will see the results of this in some form on the next bill if we do have passage and the governor and the president signs it. I think you will see parts of this bill in there if it's not a standalone. Well, I'm pretty positive about that one.
And that is still kind of up in the air. I know a lot of people are asking the question, and I was going to facetiously ask you the same thing. Where's my next $1,200 check? But there's a lot of discussion between us and the passage of any additional relief bill, isn't there?
Absolutely. We have to take time to see what the amazing amounts we've already sent out the door, how that, how it's working, how it's being implemented, the mistakes that were made, the successes. You've got to have time to see how it was actually effective and the things that was positive about it. So if we do another bill, I certainly want to address the cities, counties, municipalities in that, but we've got to give the other time to work. And, we have got to get this country going again to allow the basic fundamentals of economics to work the way they're supposed to work. We cannot just continue doling out money. That's not what we're going to be doing, or it's not what I'm going to vote for doing, just foolishly coming out with things that, what the bill we're getting over from the House, there's so much of that in there that is truly foolishness. So if there is need for additional stimulus money coming through, or whatever you want to call it, let's look at it in a reasonable, practical manner. But put the brakes on right now to make sure that we can evaluate what we've already done.
Now, one aspect of the CARES Act, what was needed, it was good, it was something that helped a lot of people, but a lot of other people took advantage of it, and I'm talking about the PPP, the Paycheck Protection Program loans that went out. And I noticed that you have called for an investigation into some of those that went to some place that, I'm going to be honest, I agree with you, they shouldn't have gone. Planned Parenthood.
Exactly.
Really?
Exactly. I've signed on to 2 letters asking the Justice Department and the SBA to investigate how 37 Planned Parenthood affiliates applied for this money. And, it specifically makes Planned Parenthood and other entities within the organizational structure ineligible. That's the reason we put that language in there. You're ineligible to do this. So the investigations would determine whether the fraudulent acts were committed to win PP loans wrongfully, because it was clear. And, that's just something that really strikes a nerve with me, because, the law is clear that abortions provided like Planned Parenthood are ineligible. So we've got some work to do. That if that was the case and they did get it, they have to justify that and pay the money back to the federal taxpayers if that's what happened. So I'm really on that path, and I'm burning that pretty hard right now because, our resources are so limited anyway, and they are just those small businesses that are deserving of that to keep their workers employed. So you can really get me fired up pretty quickly on that one.
Well, and it's understandable. I mean, we want somebody in Washington that's going to get fired up about things like this. To me, it's almost of a piece with the original CARES Act that sent, what was it, I think $25 million to the Kennedy Center, who then immediately laid everybody off and made a big donation to the Democratic Party. And I'm like, wait, that's not what we're supposed to be accomplishing here. And this is the same kind of thing with Planned Parenthood taking advantage of these loans.
Oh, absolutely. And, we knew from the beginning, Dave, I've been at this a long time. I knew that there would be unavoidable fraud because people are just going to do it when they see the opportunity to do it. And that, when you roll that kind of money out that quickly to get to the folks who literally were in the direst of straits they've ever been in their life, and to keep them maintaining their business to get past this COVID-19. So it is unavoidable fraud. It's out there. But that doesn't mean we should not track it down, recover that money for whatever that takes to do that, and to pay close attention to be as good a stewards of this money as we possibly can. And that's just something I'm a real stickler about. It's just like the Accountability Act that would authorize the president to impose sanctions on the People's Republic of China if China fails to cooperate and provide a full accounting of the events leading up to our outbreak. And, I fully support that. This could have been so much, the pain could have been so lessened had they done what they were supposed to do, but they didn't. So we do have, specific legislation that requires the president to make a certification to Congress within 60 days of the enactment that the Republic of China has. Provide a full and complete accounting to any COVID-19 related investigations. And, I think that they should be held accountable. They have to be. We cannot let this go past without doing everything in our due diligence to address this, to make sure that we have some justice out of it, that, if we have to put sanctions, travel bans, visa revocations on certain, things, let's be doing it. But we've got to look out for this country. That is our job, to be doing that. And, the growing evidence that China failed to act responsible member of the global community, it just strengthens our case. So I'm full throttle on that one. We got to make sure that anybody who used the money fraudulently or obtained that money is addressed. But we've got to look at what China did to cause this pain on our country, too.
Well, and I am fully in support of that. I agree with you 100%. The only problem that I see, the only hitch in the giddy up here, can we believe anything China tells us, even if we force them to talk to us? At this point, I'm not going to believe anything they say because they're still going to try to slant it to look as good for them as possible, I think.
You're exactly right. And, I remember eating dinner in Beijing one night thinking, here I sit in the capital city of a communist country. And, you just got to know what you're dealing with. And we got so relaxed that we kind of forgot who we were dealing with. But as this strong reminder comes about, you just have to address things past COVID-19 and remember exactly what you're dealing with. It's I can deal with a snake, but I have to know it's a snake. And I just want to make sure we address that from as many angles as we can, whether it's opposition to any loans from the international financial institutions that would benefit China or a direct entity of a company from China. So, we just have to do what we can to the best measurement that we can of holding them accountable. But you're exactly right. The word China definitely has a different meaning in this country than it ever has before.
Well, and let's be honest, at this point, they'll come back and report that they had negative cases. You know, they had less cases than they had people. That wouldn't surprise me at this point. And by the way, speaking along those lines, have you offered to buy Attorney General Lynn Fitch lunch yet for the lawsuit?
We're going to have to follow up with that, I assure you, because she and I need to catch up on many things. But, absolutely. Lynn's been a friend for a long time, and we definitely, lunch would be wonderful. I'll have to call her after we hang up.
There you go. That's perfect. Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith, I know you're busy. You got a lot going on. Keep on doing the good work that you're doing for us up in Washington, D.C., and try not to let them get to you too much, okay?
Oh, we're still hanging in, Dave. Thank you so much, and you guys have a great rest of the day.
You too. Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith. Always enjoy talking with the senator.